take a very quick look at product roadmap. Suffice to say, the last few years, we have been working very hard to continue to enhance the functionality and the features in the product. There's a list here: location awareness. We get scheduling and execution in the cloud. We now have a data center edition for those clients, because we've got some defense clients and others that absolutely require an on-prem environment. A lot of UI improvements more on the way. Power BI analytics, which will continue to grow as its own kind of domain within the application. Tons of little smaller grain material planning features. Load optimizer, Wally showed you part transition, part source. We didn't touch on bill of material effectivity date. This is a very useful tool to have. We also have phantom part functionality now, part packaging. The list goes on and on and on of things that we've done on that side. We think we've got a very feature-rich functionality on material planning. We're very proud of where we're at with scheduling and execution, but you'll see on the roadmap there's some pretty big other updates that are coming in that area as we go forward. The other things we've done on the S&OP side were things like the part simulation, demand history simulation, MRP netting within the simulation environment. So it's got a number of big enhancements. There's a very aggressive roadmap around what we're going to do with S&OP that is going to take a bit longer to execute. A lot of the visualizations for S&OP are going to come through Power BI, just because it's so much better of a tool for seeing different levels of aggregation, different views and things like that. But we actually expect to be able to offer scenario comparisons where you've loaded 3 different forecasts and now you're able to compare the different S&OP runs across those different environments. We have made a lot of progress on architecture and scalability. We are further progressing on this as we continue to release new features. We're continuing to work on the basic infrastructure that the application runs on to get us to a point where we have a lot more automatic scalability based on taking advantage of new technology that's available in our environment. A couple of years ago, we became compliant and certified on SOC 2 data security, which is a big deal, especially in the enterprise size clients. Everybody wants to know that their data is being protected properly. We've never had a security incident. We're extremely proud of that. But obviously that work continues because there's a lot of malicious people out there in the world who want to try to hack into systems and things like that. And we absolutely are committed to protecting your information to the greatest degree possible. It's always a challenge to balance feature requirements with strengthening the foundation. I think Brian and his team have done a phenomenal job on that. We can't answer every request all the time. We do a very focused effort on trying to find those features that are the most applicable to the most clients. We've never wanted to go down the path of doing customized features for clients because it's just problematic in terms of, the wider progress of the platform. But I think we've done a pretty darn good job. A lot more work to be done. This is our roadmap going forward. If we were publicly traded, we would have to make a disclosure here that this is just an estimate of what we're going to get done. So please take this with a grain of salt. We haven't quite learned to under-promise and over-deliver yet, so dates may shift a little to the right, as you might expect, but quite a bit going on. You can see the different rows or the different functional module areas: material planning, S&OP, scheduling and execution. Systems is really the kind of foundational stuff, and emerging functionality. You've seen the demand planning beta, and we'll talk about autopilot tomorrow in a lot of detail, and then obviously a lot of architectural work around multi-tenancy, UI refactors, and scalability in that arena. Mass update. This is one that's been a bit of a challenging area. There tends to be a need to do a lot of updating of information in the system. Like, we want to make all these parts non-buffered and lock them so that they never change. And we want to do this or that or the other thing. And to date, we've not had a tool within the software that have made it easy to do that. And we're finally going to be able to get that accomplished. We're working on it right now. The way we've accomplished that in the past was Excel uploads and things like that, which worked reasonably well, but it could be problematic at times because somebody would upload some data with improper data that then either crashed the site or wiped out other data. So we thought, boy, we really need to protect this and make it more secure so that we don't have those kind of issues, because those would turn into CC cases, as we call them, critical care cases, which then distracts people from doing other work, and obviously not good on either side of the fence. So we want to absolutely get that done. Mentioned earlier that we're going to be extending the simulation horizon further out. We have coming now in the scheduling and execution the ability to edit the routings, which previously wasn't a capability. And we're starting the process towards parallel operations. This is going to take a few swings at the plate to get all the way through that to the point of parallel resources and parallel scheduling. But that's a big deal for a lot of our clients, where you have an issue where you have a milling machine, maybe a fixture, an operator, whatever. They all have to be available in the same time window to do the step in the work order. And so that's a real critical feature enhancement that we want to get to. You can see in the middle there, drag and drop Gantt. What that would mean is the ability for a scheduler to grab the work order and move it somewhere in time. This is something that everybody seems to want, though philosophically we are violently opposed to. So especially if you're in an environment with complex routings and a lot of other issues, you don't know what you're doing. And the system would be far better allowed to do the work for you. But we got disqualified from a deal. So, the sales guys get upset. I got to do something about that. But there are legitimately environments where it is a useful capability, a bottling line. There is one step in the routing. There's no real complexity. And if I could just move work orders around a little bit, okay, that might be helpful. But obviously we would be cautioning users about this in terms of just respect that you're getting into a lot of interdependencies there. If you do have complex routings, crossing paths and constraints and things like that, it's not, packets as well. You're not going to get what you think. If Chris was in the room, he would say Infor had this in their solution when he was working for them. They demoed it like crazy because everybody liked the way it looked. Then they told nobody to use it. So, we'll see where that one goes. Power BI authoring is coming. We've got some further enhancements on that side, as Dan kind of mentioned. We are going to sunset the Izenda platform. So we are going through the process of working with clients that have reports to try to figure out which of those they really need that we don't already have either a surrogate for in the Power BI environment already or some other dependency on. But that will allow us to get that licensing cost out of our profitability and all that. And then High Charts is the charting tool that we use in the application. There's an upgrade that'll make some of those things a bit slicker and nicer to look at. We'll talk about Autopilot tomorrow. I mentioned the other multi-tenancy stuff. On quota management, somebody asked about that earlier. We are going to address that in the fourth quarter. We are going to look at multi-source in the distribution environment, capacity constrained promise date. This would be an answer to Todd's question earlier, where because we have both solutions in the same environment now, when we have a recommended order, we do the material availability check. It says to look at the recommended order for material planning and says whether or not the component materials are available on the order date, right? The recommended order date. Well, there's a corollary that you could also look at if you know the routing for that item and it's a make item. You could look at what is the capacity availability for that same window. And you could have a flag there that, hey, before you approve this, you may want to look, may want to adjust the order quantity, or there may be some other remediation actions. The idea of capacity tested promise dates is a real cool feature that I think will help within the system. And we expect to be able to get there around the end of the year as well. So lots of good stuff going on there. And I'm very excited about that. Can't say it enough. I said it earlier. Your input, your feedback, your ideas, all of those things are so valuable for us. Patrick Wilcox, who is our Director of Product Management, is not here. He's on vacation with his family as this school break happened. He would have been here presenting, but he's really been the funnel for us, taking the input, helping assess it, get feature specs developed, getting it triaged through our process of prioritization and the like, and getting those out and going forward as we look out there. We are going to try to the best degree possible to really focus on this idea of let's create the features and support the use cases that reduce the end user's workload and or increase their confidence in the system. You know, this idea, Steve Jobs said it best, doing things simple is very difficult, right? Getting simplicity into the software is absolutely a deep commitment that I've got for what we're trying to do at DDTech. I think you'll see some interesting stuff with the autopilot tomorrow that are kind of a first step down that path. But the more we can ideate around how do we do this? How do we get it so that I'm not that Apollo astronaut sitting in that space capsule? I mean, it should be so much easier for us to get better results for all of you with way less workload on your staff so that they can focus on the real things that matter. You know, a vendor issue or a new part introduction, other factors like that, that otherwise would be very, very difficult to implement directly into software, right? Let's get to where we see a lot of clients getting a lot of value out of automated planning. Let's utilize that as a way to redirect workload into the things that are more value add for all of you. And in the process, let's get to a place where the users feel like the system is helping them. Whereas so often in the supply chain planning space, most users feel like they are a slave to the system instead of the other way around, which to me is a joke. I mean, you go and look at what SpaceX is doing, going to outer space. This is Tinker Toys compared to that stuff that they're doing. So why can't we make better progress on that? So any ideas you've got on that, we're all ears. And thanks for everything you've done so far, getting us to where we're at. So that's the wrap up for today. We're going to have cocktails, I think, starting in a few minutes, and then dinner. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time.